Our main laws are the Employment Act from 1960, who based on the Factory Act from 1877. And it was revised in 2000 underwent a major revision. In the 1980s, there was the Accident Insurance Act, and they figured that it's not only good to have an insurance, but also a prevention. So all the accident prevention is in this act. We have a Chemicals Act and a Product Safety Act, which are pretty much the same thing as in Europe, because we have to adapt. Now about the Employment Act, you can read this in your document. It's about working hours. It's about health at work. Here it's health. In the Accident Insurance Act, it's about safety and specific things for young workers and pregnant and breastfeeding mothers. Okay, now this is the interesting point. We have several bodies involved. We have the Employment Act, and the Employment Act is one thing for the health. The Accident Insurance Act for safety. And there is a border. So we have an agency called SUVA, which is the accident insurance, but it's a federal, it's not a private accident insurance, who enforces part of the accident prevention. The accident prevention in the companies, they are more dangerous. All the others and all the Employment Act is enforced by the labor inspections from the cantons. They have to be supervised. That's us. That's ECO. We make the supervision and we make the enforcement in the federal administration. And also SUVA is supervised by the Federal Office of Public Health. Don't ask me why it's the public health, but it's the way. And because there are so many bodies involved in the accident insurance enforcement, there is the Federal Commission of Occupational Safety that has the task to coordinate all this. Here are just the explanations when you read it in your document, that you know what all these shortenings mean. Now if you look at the map of Europe, quite often you see a map of Europe, and this map of Europe, there you see all the EU states and the the EEA states and the candidate states, and in the middle of the hole there is a hole. That's Switzerland. So some say we can't become a member of EU because they will tell us what we have to do, and we are independent, we don't want them to tell us. And the others say we are the best anyway. So if you look at the figures I show you here about our accidents, we are not the best. We are average as everyone else. Still we have a lot of accidents, and we have also 100 deaths per year and 100 people dying from asbestos problems. As others as well, you realize that we undergo savings. Within about 10 years, we lost 7% of the labor inspection workforce. Also, we are trying to save money. But the ratio employee per inspector still remains on a reasonable amount. We are organized in SECO, the Federal Labor Inspection. We have a part that makes the enforcement and helps the cantons, gives advice how they should do, so it's uniform. We have a supervision group, which is a very little one, and one that makes coordination things that are a little bit going over several institutions. The most important thing is the cantonal labor inspections, because they are the enforcement. They do everything that is in relation with the companies, contact, enforcement, checking their plans if they are building some things, advising them and reports and so on. And they are also those who decide about the sanctions, or at least they go to court if sanctions are needed. Now, why do we make a supervision? I already said it a little bit. If there is an enterprise having several branches around Switzerland, they will come and say, listen, in this canton we have to do it, in the other we don't have to do it, in the third we have to do something else. It is not a very good situation if they come along with this. But even if you are uniform, have a uniform enforcement, they still will come. That's another point. But we have to make sure that it is not the case. So this is our task, why we do it. And how do we do it? We wanted to measure the effectiveness. And we made quite a big project about this. But we figured out this is not really possible. Others tried the same thing. Till now, I didn't find a solution for really measuring the effectiveness. So what we are doing is we go to the cantons, around 5 a year, maybe 6, and we're checking their system by audits. We're looking how they do their job. We go on the field, we look how they do it in reality, because you always can show a wonderful system. But if the system works, that's another thing. And we have some indicators who show us a little bit where they are at in the actual situation. On the other hand, we're trying to make a good education of the cantonal labor inspectors. Today I must tell that we don't have a formal education and training, but next year probably I can tell you that we have. We are setting up a project for a really clear training for the labor inspectors, so they will have a certificate in the end that they are now labor inspectors. Of course, they have to come with a certain basic training, and then they have the opportunity to do other things. On university level, we have several things, like you can become a hygienist, an ergonomist, occupational physician, and so on. So this is one part. By the FCOS, the coordination committee I showed you before, there is a training paid, partly financed, for safety specialists and safety engineers, which is made by the SUBA. So you see you've come back to the points. And we set up a training with a technical school that helps for all the issues for health at work. So right now we are on the way to have a formal training within a year or two. Now, the point of sector-specific solutions, that's something that needs a little bit more explanation. Some time ago we made a directive, and this directive said, no, I have to start before. In all our laws, there is an article that says the employer is responsible for safety, or in the other one, is responsible for health at work. Now, because it didn't work, sometimes someone from SUBA came into the enterprise, checked whether they paid the right amount of, the premium, and they had the impression everything is all right, but they didn't do anything for accident prevention. So one had to go a little bit further, and one made this directive, and this directive says, and the employer is really responsible. So we have in the law, he's responsible, and a directive that says he's really responsible. But how can he be responsible if he doesn't know how to do it? So he has to take the aid of specialists, and this is clearly defined. Now, this is good for a big company. If you have a company of several hundred employees, you can hire specialists. But what do you do in a workshop with 3, 4, 5 people? It would be very expensive to make a complete risk analysis. So one defined these sector-specific solutions. So a branch can make a solution, makes the risk analysis for everything. Like, for example, a car workshop. Everything that's in a car workshop, all the works, all the machinery is done, is in the risk analysis. And finally, you distribute this within the branch and everybody can do the job right. So this is what it's all about. So the advantage is it's more efficient. The employees and the employers have to do it together, and they have to take specialists to do the job. And it's a benefit that it costs less per enterprise. This was more or less the last point. Something I like to tell you about Switzerland is, Frosina told yesterday about 50 parties in the country. We have a little bit of a different system in Switzerland. We have 4 major and 2 minor, bigger parties. A lot of others, of course, but they are not really very important. And if you want to go through a law, you have to define a law or decide on a law. You always need at least 3 of the bigger parties. Usually these 4 parties, the major parties, are also in the government. So this is very complicated, and our steps are always very small because you have to negotiate. Switzerland is the country of negotiations. But if you made the step, you can't make it back because you need again 3 parties to go back. So you make small steps, but always a little bit ahead. And you don't have the situation that once you go a big step ahead and then you go a big step back. So this is also true for the labor inspections. Usually it's a negotiation and we will find good solutions. That's what we are driving to. So thank you very much. Or I don't know, the Macedonian word.